episode of the Shift with CJ podcast. And today's podcast is special. Why is it special? Because we've got a live guest in our biohacking studios. And today's guest is special. Why? Because she's done a lot of things in her life. Firstly, she is super interested in the world of health, wellness, and fitness. She's a serial entrepreneur who started a lot of studios and is growing her businesses while giving it enough time to. She's a mother. that's a big responsibility.
It really is.
And yeah, so please join your hands in welcoming Anjali to the show.
Hi, CJ. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, the excitement is all mine. And me and Anjali, we connected over LinkedIn, and I was going through her profile, and I was seeing
That's
what
right.
she's doing. We had a small conversation, and I was like, I would love to learn from her because her approach to fitness and wellness is a little bit different from what we've been speaking about on the podcast. So on the podcast, you heard us talk about genetics, fitness, strength training. We've got, some neuroscientists have been on board, a lot of these things. But we've never touched on this specific area called Pilates, which for me, Anjali, is fascinating because normally I would go into the podcast knowing a little bit about things.
Yeah.
But if I had to be honest with you and the audience, I don't know much about Pilates. So, first question is, how did you get to where you are right now? Like, what's your backstory?
Well, I've always been into fitness and health. Let's address the cliche. I was a chubby kid and, always struggling to kind of look a certain way, be a certain size, always fighting with my genetics, etc. So starting with everything from, well, I can't say clean eating. Back in the day, it was dieting. Those were the right words we used when we were kids. So from all the dieting and all the workouts and everything that I did, I stumbled upon Pilates. I want to say it was in my late 30s when that happened. And I was much more into fitness then. So I understood the importance of a workout like Pilates. And I still totally think that strength training and cardiovascular fitness and all of that is great. But incorporating Pilates into my life really, really was a game changer because not only is it a resistance training, which still means we do muscle work, but the beauty of Pilates is a combination of building weak muscles, but stretching tight muscles. So when we do a lot of strength and, we shorten our muscles, the beauty of Pilates is we're constantly opening our muscles as well. So that really was interesting to me, and that's how I stumbled upon it and started to incorporate it into my life.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. You touched on something really interesting, which is personally interesting for me, is that you were a chubby kid.
Yeah.
How long were you chubby for? Was it like for a few years in your life, or have you always been, a bit chubby? Like, what's the story there?
I mean, it's pretty sad, CJ, when I talk about it now to say it aloud. But I think our generation back in the day, we were really shamed for being a certain size. And I think now the beauty of the current generation is really owning on up to who they are, which I think is beautiful. And I experienced that with my daughter. And I love that aspect, which surely can talk about that. But when I was growing up, I was really shamed for being chubby. And, 2 sizes too big maybe, but I was always trying to fit into a certain pair of jeans that were never my size. And I was always embarrassed to eat a certain kind of food that I had to go home and eat secretly. So I've gone through that really tough journey with food. And it didn't help that, my parents were also pretty focused on me trying to get a certain size more than anything. So there's not a single fad diet I didn't try as a kid. There's not a nutritionist I didn't meet. And, it was a real struggle for me back in the day. But there was a lot of shame involved as well, which was hard. Every time I ate, I was ashamed of it. And every time I, fit into a pair of jeans that were small, it felt great. So my relationship with food was terrible. And to say the least, it took a really long time for me to fix that. I mean, it really took forever for me to understand that it's not wrong to eat. It's not wrong to enjoy your food. And there are so many ways to balance it. But to understand the idea of having a great relation with food. So that was a really tough but amazing journey for me to learn so much about myself.
Well, and kudos to to you to
Thank you.
saying that in front of like the audience and everyone, and it really is it takes a different set or different kind of mindset when you portray that story because like we're similar in that part because when I was growing up I was I wouldn't call myself obese, but there was a time that my principal called my mother saying that I think your son cannot, I can see him walking and he's struggling, so you better do something about it. And what did my parents do? The time I came home, they were like, oh, by the way, your principal just told us this, but here's the same food that you are eating, maybe
That's
more.
crazy. That's so hard for me to understand because our parents are exactly the opposite. And there were two type of parents back in the day. Mine were constantly trying to starve me. So I was constantly looking for ways to cheat. So I think both of us have gone through a very tough and oh my God, you look amazing for that side that existed. But I think for both of us, that must have been super super hard for you as well.
Yes, it was. For me, and I went that route. Okay, I have to take control of my life. So, what do? I will read every magazine, men's health magazine, which mostly doesn't work, guys. And I would try every fat diet. We were talking offline in the conversation about the watermelon diet. I must admit, I didn't try those, but I tried most of the other ones. I tried not eating, which was not the same as fasting, but just starving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although when I would come home, everyone would be like, I was like, I am dieting, and they were telling me there's no need for it. It's a waste of time.
No support.
So it was a lack of support, but in that period of time, I think my motivation and I was always driven to sort of not just lose weight, but be optimized. So being optimized for my weight, for my height, the way I show up in the world, and now fast forward all these years, maybe 15 years now, and you understand the relationship between certain body fat percentages and the way you show up in the world, whether it's how much you sleep,
absolutely.
And it's crazy because and that's a whole new world of topics that we can dive into.
Yeah.
What I want to know from your side is going through that journey. What was like the biggest like factors for you to change, or like if someone was listening to this right now and they were going through something similar, what would be like your hack, or what was your motivation, or like boots on the street, real life things that you did that helped you make that transition? Because what I can kind of knowing a little bit that I know about how the brain and the neural circuits in the brain work, it is such a difficult cycle to break.
Right.
I mean, you can lose all the weight and you can fit in the lower pant size or jean size, but your psychology never stops.
Absolutely.
So how did you get over it?
So I think there are two things we're talking about right now. First is what encouraged me. So I want to say that I started setting small goals. When we're really overweight, like what you must have experienced, the picture seems so far away. Yeah. The ideal picture, right? Because you're just like, oh my God, like I've gone so far deep into this and going all the way is going to be so hard. So I started setting smaller goals. I started saying, all right, I need to look better. I need to take a picture and see that few weeks later, I'm improving. I'm seeing progress, and progress is so encouraging for all of us. But also not working with quick fixes. I think my real game changer was when I started to eat healthy, when I started to make the real shift with my food, because all those fat diets, oh my God, they would make you weak and drained. God knows you'd go back to those burgers and pizzas, and my favorite craving is sugar, by the way. So all those cakes, eventually are your best friend because you're so tired of starving yourself. So I think when I stopped looking for quick fixes, when I started actually eating clean and I started seeing good results and realized it's not that impossible, there was no end to that journey. It just kept going and it getting better and better. And and I know we never reach the end of that tunnel. There's always scope for improvement. So from then to now, I always have better goals to get even better. But I think that helped me a lot, being more realistic.
I mean, it's a fantastic story, and thank you for sharing that. One thing that stood out is that you mentioned that there is no end to the tunnel.
Yeah.
And that is something which is highly important that I agree on, and I always will tell people that no matter how many goals you set for yourself, or no matter where you're looking to get in the next few years, don't assume that you are going to be there, because there is no there.
Exactly. There is no there, right? 5 years or 10 years ago, I thought that there was. Like, I thought I was exactly where I want to be, but you're spot on. There isn't. We just keep going one day at a time.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and it's great. We're not talking anything about goal setting or how ambitious you should be, but knowing that there isn't going to be a there is allows you to also be very present and alive in the moment itself.
Absolutely.
Because most people that at least I would talk to were always, in this, they call it, it's funny, they call it rat race.
Yeah.
And, whether it's in your career or, in your finances or any of these buckets that you choose in your life.
Yeah.
But most of the people are like, oh, it's a rat race and I need to win. And I always tell people that I know it might be a rat race, but the winner of the rat race is also a rat.
Yeah,
so,
true. Lovely,
don't be on a point that you have to be a rat, because you're beyond that.
Absolutely.
You're human. So
Absolutely.
try to raise your awareness and be in the moment and just be like you are.
And see progress, right? A better version of yourself. I just think that that's what's important. It cannot be possible that we can both lose weight at the same speed, or that one formula works for all, or anybody who says in 1 month you will lose 4 kilos and things like that. It's bizarre when people say that.
So are you saying that all those Instagram commercials when people say that, going on keto and vegan and paleo,
oh my God, they are not going to change your life.
You just destroyed the hopes of millions of people.
Nutritionists who are going to come and catch me later. But that's the truth, because we are all so genetically different. And no matter, I always have this joke that no matter how much oil I put in my hair, it's not going to curl like yours, and vice versa. We're all different. So there is no one formula for all of us. There is no way that I can eat exactly what you eat. So I actually have people who see some of my clients on Instagram and say, oh my God, what does she do? Because can you make me do her workout? I'm like, you could do her workout every day of the week and no chance you can look like her, because she is genetically constructed differently. You can look better than what you looked yesterday, but if she is your goal, then your goal is all wrong. So it's really important for us to understand. And I don't blame them. I've been there as well, right? Haven't we all looked at magazines and said, I want to look like her. What does she eat and what does she work out? But unfortunately, that's not even possible.
Yeah, that brings up a very important point, that whole understanding of biochemical individuality.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you're looking at Instagram or wherever you get your information, legit information from, you could think that if your neighbor has done a certain diet and they've lost a certain amount of kilos or pounds, or someone in your network has done the same, try it. It might work for you, but it's not the holy grail saying that it will work with you for sure, because again, that's a road that you don't want to take. But I really like your idea of taking pictures and comparing to yourselves, because I think when we have something, most people would respond to an exterior sort of realization, whether it's with the picture or someone with weight. Sometimes that also works, but again, it depends if you're training. Your training can, maybe you gain more muscle, but it's heavier than.
Absolutely. And as women, our metabolism is such, we have a cycle, we're bloated, and we have to own up to those things. If I'm close to my cycle and I'm bloated, that's okay. And if there are certain days of the month that I look better, that's awesome. But it's so hard to reach that, and nobody really talks about those things. Nobody talks about acceptance. Nobody talks about owning up to how beautiful we are. I'm glad we're getting there slowly and steadily, but me growing up was all about size 0, and it was like, what do you do to get there? And it was very tough, and I think it was a struggle for all us, say, women with Indian genetics who are not built to look like that, for instance.
Yeah, very important point, and thank you for sharing that. Now let's move forward. So you were a chubby kid and you got over these complications or situations, I like to call them.
Yeah.
and we move forward. How did you? Was Pilates the first thing that you jumped onto, or did you try some other versions of fitness and you failed or exceeded so much, and you said, you know what, I need something different? So
Yeah.
Pilates came first, or something else came first?
From a business perspective?
No, from your personal life, like in terms of fitness.
Yeah. So in terms of fitness, to be fair, I did everything that you do when you're a teenager growing up. I've done all the HIIT workouts, I've done all the CrossFits, I've done strength training, I've done cardio, I've done all of that, and very weak core, but superficially wanting to work out to achieve your external goals, not really caring about what your spine is feeling like and what your core is feeling like, and are you working your inner muscles that hold the bones together and all of that. Never understood those things. For superficial reasons and muscles, I worked everything. So, and I started to see results for sure. Not like you can't see results in that. I totally did. Growing older and understanding and going a little deeper into it is when Pilates came into the picture.
Mm-hmm. And then did you just start training Pilates, or you thought, okay, you know what, I've been training Pilates, it looks like a game changer, let me start a business. So now let's move on to the business side.
Sure.
How did you come up with Pilates Academy? And I knew you were in your journey, you started a few other studios before. So
that's correct.
Run us through like your business entrepreneurial side
sure.
of the story.
So I've always been an entrepreneur, coming from an entrepreneur family. I stumbled upon somebody who wanted to open a Pilates studio in Dubai. So we partnered into a studio called A-Tone Fitness Lounge. Moving forward, I met Chloe, and she's my phenomenal partner, my Italian friend and partner. And she already had an existing brand, Pilates Academy. So we merged then. And now we have two studios. Our third one's actually opening up, which is our Pride project for Medcare Hospital. So we're opening up Pilates Academy Medcare.
Is it the one on Sheikh Zayed Road? There's a Medcare here?
So yes, there's a Medcare here. It's not on Sheikh Zayed Road. It's the one in Wasal. But there's a new one they're opening, which is their holistic clinic. So it's everything besides actual medicine. It's amazing. It's all alternative therapy. So we're actually doing 2 rooms for them, and we will be having Pilates Academy there.
Oh wow, that's good. I mean, that's a very big jump for
we're really proud of that.
Sort of a thing, and for you guys as well. And for people who are listening, I was able to see one of Anjali's studios in Business Bay, and I really liked the vibe going inside. It was full of plants, and it was just a very good vibe.
Thank you.
And one thing that was surprising, I mean, I don't want to be ignorant, but was very surprising to me was when my entire idea of Pilates, and this comes from me growing up and being in the fitness first gyms and trying out one of their Pilates classes, which was more of mat-based Pilates.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of people who are listening to this would also have some sort of an idea of Pilates as being something for your core and something that is being done with some sort of a balance kind of movement. And honestly, I didn't like it so much when I went for 2 or 3 classes, and this is like 10 or 12.
Of course, yes.
But when I entered your studio, you walked me through 2 different rooms with beautiful machines, and I believe you called them Cadillac and Reformer.
That is correct.
So tell us, and if people who are listening to this and you're not driving, then you can really Google this up to have a visual idea of what we're talking about, Cadillac and the Reformer.
That's correct.
So tell us, what is the Cadillac and versus what is the Reformer, and this traditional Pilates, does it exist, or am I too outdated?
Well, no, it still exists, but it's progressed a lot since then. So when Pilates actually started by Joseph Pilates, it was a rehabilitation workout for people who were soldiers, and it was post-injury that they had on the field. He actually put springs on their bed, and he tried to give them resistance training to get strong again. So that is the core of Pilates. So yes, it does start from there. But moving forward, coming so many years today, I want to say that it can tick any box in terms of goals. So I have people that come to lose weight. I have people that come to get stronger, injuries, spine issues, shoulder issues. We can address all the issues while working towards your goals. So that's the beauty of Pilates. The core comes from, like I said, resistance training. So because there's a concept of changing the resistance around, you're always being challenged. So there's never a person, whether it's you or me, for whom it cannot be hard enough. So the levels are constantly growing and growing. The better you get, the harder it can get in terms of resistance, and we can make it harder for you. And it's based on the concept of, like I said, strength and stretch. So it strengthens your muscles while stretching your tight muscles. So it helps in making you leaner, longer, taller. When we say I'm a few inches taller with Pilates, it's because it actually works in pulling your spine a little bit open. It opens up your posture. Your shoulders are starting to look better. And you know what's amazing? I actually have clients who say that in one session. So I actually have somebody who came back to me in one session and said, I don't want to sound crazy, but I'm actually walking better after a session. It's magnanimous in that sense. It actually manages to do that, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I can imagine because of the stretching effect, the whole posterior chain gets reboot in a way, because most of the time they're looking at people who are, hunched over, they're looking at their computer screens.
Our lifestyle, right? Look at our phone and our iPads and our children today who are constantly on a screen. And when do you ever hold your screen up to your eye level? Like it's the ideal thing to do, but how many people have you ever seen do that, right? They all have a curled spine. And that was not what ideal spine was supposed to look like. So we actually, the joke is, and I'm going to put you on that as well, we have this little thing called a spine corrector on my studio. So when you come next time, we're going to try it. And that's what our natural arch is about. And I've almost not met anybody who can get on a spine corrector and feel normal. So we've messed with the natural arch of our spine so much that the natural arch doesn't feel that natural anymore. So it's pretty amazing when you actually get into it to realize what you've moved away from. Coming back to Reformer and Cadillac, they're phenomenal pieces of equipment.
For sure.
Yeah, there's so much we can do on them. The core remains the same, the strength and stretch. So we constantly change the springs around, we have resistance, we work every part of the body. So it's not true that Pilates only works the core. It teaches us to connect with our muscles. So I've seen a lot of people doing mindless workouts. Pilates is what you call a mindful workout, where you actually understand how to engage your muscles and how to switch them on. And the beauty of that is, like I've seen, is that I use that same connection when I'm in any other workout, for instance. So when I go to the gym, I know now how to switch on my core while I'm doing, say, strength, or I'm lunging, or I'm squatting. I keep my core on. I keep my back neutral. So these things are really nice to incorporate so that I have a healthy workout outside of the Pilates room.
And you remain injury-free, right? Because
absolutely.
Most of the injuries are coming because of inactivation of core,
absolutely,
of the spine.
Absolutely.
So when I'm imagining now, and I don't want to think about the Reformer and the Cadillac because that gives me another idea, but for people who are sort of listening to our conversation and they're thinking, okay, she's made some good points, but does this, or in which ways is it different to sort of your traditional yoga training? Because in yoga as well, the emphasis is, there is another whole energetic emphasis which we don't want to touch.
Spiritual,
But the main point, or one of the main points where it gets its differentiation, is that it's also looking to stretch various parts of the body, including working the fascia and bringing you, if you're doing some sort of like a hatha yoga, then it brings you X amount of strength, stability, core, more connection, more mindfulness. I would say, because you don't have an option, you have to sort of breathe into it. Right? So how is Pilates different from yoga?
It's very different. So the advantage of yoga for me is purely the spiritual side, which does not exist in Pilates. It's a pure workout. So I think the way we breathe and we find our spiritual connection in yoga is beautiful. But Pilates as a workout is way more progressive. We've come a long way in terms of, like I said, because it's resistance, the springs help us a lot. So we don't believe in overstretching in Pilates. So I actually have a lot of, unfortunately, clients who overstretch in yoga, and then they come to work their muscles around to strengthen what they overstretched. So we always believe in opening up your muscles, but we don't believe in overstretching them, because that's when you can have a slip or you can have an extra pull. And that's how Pilates and yoga is very different. So it's a much more progressive workout than yoga for sure.
Okay, so when you're looking at, let's say, either CrossFit or looking at any kind of other strength training modalities, or for the average person, let's say, classic gym scenario, you go to the gym, there are some machines, and now you have these racks of weights where you can, do a bench press, for example, of 10 reps at 30 kgs. And then next time you come back, because if you want to really progress, then the overload principle, the progressive overload principle applies. So you're trying to get 32.5, and that's how you're measuring your progress.
Of course.
How does this translate into Pilates? Because you mentioned about springs. So do you are the springs numbered? Do you have to keep a count of what I did today versus what I'm going to do next, or is it guided? Like, how does that sort of work?
Well, it's very different in that sense. It's purely how your body is feeling. So there's a lot of, like I said, mindfulness in Pilates. The exercises can keep getting harder. So yes, it's very an interesting question when you ask, when my clients say, it's never really getting easy. So am I really getting better at this? I'm like, you're getting better, but the exercises are getting harder. So when you have a right trainer, they kind of wean you through it. But the real progress is in the beauty of aesthetics. People come to me saying, like I said, they're looking better, their core is feeling better, their spine is feeling better, you're suddenly walking taller, you're seeing your shoulders much more open, your neck is less stiff. All the magic that happens is purely in your body. So no, there are springs, and we change them. So we really don't explain that to the client, but it's purely how your body feels.
Okay, so if I had to come to the Pilates Academy, which I recommend everyone go and visit, it's beautiful. And we are in a class. Let's say I take a reformer class.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on something later. But okay, so we're in this reformer class. Depending on how I feel today, the instructor who is guiding the session, is that person going to come around and say, "Oh, CJ, it looks like you can stretch a little bit more, so let me move the spring in that direction"?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of Pilates Academy, because we only have 5 reformers. So as a trainer, I have the capacity to actually put CJ in a class, say with Anjali, where both of us can do the exact same workout, but our levels can be completely different. So that's amazing. But of course, when you go into a studio which has 25 reformers, you got to take a call on your own. But that's why we truly believe in Pilates Academy to keep it really small, because we really see the spine, what the core is doing. Are you engaging it? So we actually can notice whether you've learned to engage your core or not, and I can give you cues on how to work them. I mean, most likely men are stronger on the arms, so I can change the setting for you compared to me and all of that. So yes, the trainer is responsible for those changes.
More attention to detail when
absolutely,
someone
absolutely.
Okay, that's good. What about the Cadillac? What's different?
Cadillac actually is different. Well, for people who've never tried it, I would say reformer first.
Yeah.
It's more for a beginner. Cadillac has every spring individual for every muscle group. So for example, my left arm and right arm do not function with one spring. So it's like a barbell versus a dumbbell.
Okay.
So when I do 2 dumbbells, it's beautiful because both are learning to work individually, and the weaker one is not getting compensated by the stronger one. And I think that's phenomenal, because most of the time, in most workouts, the stronger one's constantly taking over and the weaker one's getting weaker and weaker. So really, when you get on that reformer, I can show you, but it's so much harder because the weaker one just refuses to cooperate. So we put you on the reformer first, we teach you to have that muscle connection, and then throw you on the Cadillac and see how you're progressing.
Okay, yeah, I think the analogy that you gave, the dumbbell versus the barbell, is brilliant. Like that, in a second, and I'm sure for everyone else as well, it gave me the right picture of what's going on. So thank you for sharing that. That's very helpful, at least for me to understand. So what is an average session like? How many, is it like a 20-minute session, a 30-minute session, an hour, or does it depend? How does that work?
Well, it's a whole hour.
Okay.
We start off with warming up the spine, our most important. So our lower back and our abs are connected. They're trans abs. They're literally into each other, the muscles. So what happens is most people who are suffering from a lower back pain is because their abs are weak. A lot of time women, because they've had babies and stuff like that, and they've not brought their muscles back to the initial strength that it was, suffer from lower back pain. So what we focus on is to get your spine warm. And then we focus on there's not a single class in Pilates where you don't work every muscle group. So then we focus on arms and legs, a lot of core, a lot of back. If there are any specific injuries that the client is suffering from, we try to focus on that as well while working towards a goal. So yeah, it's a full hour class.
Okay. And is all the sessions, are they designed same, or is it like, you go to a gym studio or like a fitness club studio,
Yeah.
and then you have, let's say, Zumba, and one day you're doing like a dance on some other song, or
Yeah.
someday you're doing something else. So does it change, or is it like, for this 1 week we are going to, like, for example, like I do jiu-jitsu, and in jiu-jitsu what we have is the classes are 6 days a week. And for the first 2 days, they're focusing on one move from one side, and then the second 2 days, they're focusing on the other move from the other side. So it's always dynamic; it changes.
Yeah.
Is Pilates something similar, or you focus on one thing at one time, and then something completely different at the other time?
No, it's similar in the sense of the fact that we have a full body workout. When you're in a group class, it's the trainer's responsibility to make sure you're challenged. So people with different abilities can still be challenged in a group class. For me, I do private, and I feel like I have a bit of an intuitive side. So I always see the energy of the person that comes in. It's important that they actually feel strong that day, and when they do, then we really go and really push them to the level that they are capable of being. But sometimes I have people that come with a tired energy and things like that, and then I work towards their goals in a much more calmer way. So the trainer is extremely important in Pilates, extremely important. I can't say that enough. And when they really connect with you, because I have a great relation with all my clients, when they really connect with you, then they can really help you from a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level.
Okay. And when people come into the studio, right, I can imagine that some people are coming with pain, some people are coming with sort of this lack of energy. What do you think is sucking out people's energy?
The rat race?
The rat race?
Yeah. I think, we've all managed to want to, like you said, we're always over challenging ourselves to win some race that I don't know who's winning and where we're going with that. And when we really go into a little bit of a mindful space, we start to realize there's absolutely no end to that. So, they're always coming exhausted. They're always coming, especially my clients who come at the end of the day, they have no energy to work out because their brain has just done so much. And that's when they need me to connect with them spiritually, to, give them my energy while they work out, which is pretty special.
Oh, that's interesting. So, a person comes for an hour a class, and what's the ideal duration, like per week? Do you do 2 classes per week, or what do you recommend people to do? Or is it like go 6 days in a week?
Yeah. Well, my answer whenever my clients ask me that is say, how many days do you do now? And if it's 0, then even 1 is great. Again, depending on what else you do. So say somebody like yourself who's into strength and all of the other fitness routines, I would say even once a week is great, because you're giving that once a week to sort of a rehabilitation to all the other things you're doing, and whatever you learn in your Pilates class, you will incorporate in all your other workouts. But I also believe that in a bigger picture, you got to love what you do. And I always tell my clients that, and if they really enjoy what they're doing, then most likely I'm fighting for sessions. So I'm blessed like that. It's always been a situation where they start with 1 to 2 to 3 and they want more. And if I can't give it, or whoever can or cannot, but if they really enjoy what they're doing, they love it because it's therapeutic. I think Pilates is not, you go back with more energy than what you came from.
I think one of the biggest, or I would assume one of the biggest reasons for that is the part where you're stretching the spine and stretching all the other muscles.
You feel amazing. Yes. Amazing.
There is this thing where we're constantly, even if you're doing some kind of weight training or you're sitting 8 hours a day, just getting up for lunch and going back or going up to the toilet, then chances are overall, like there's a systemic tightness to your body.
Yeah.
And that tightness results in, the muscles and the fascia being super tight.
Yes.
And what I've seen in new research is that the fascia is, in a way, it sort of produces its own energy. It's called pseudoelectric. which
Okay.
means it can, when stretched properly and hydrated under the right circumstances, which are stretching or movement, oxygen delivery, and the amount of minerals that are there. All of these combined together
Right.
can allow the fascia to make its own energy, which is separate from your body's way of making energy. If you
Absolutely.
can tap into that, that is again one of those things, I guess, where you have this systemic influence via the vagal tone or the vagus nerve, and you have all of these neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, all of these things are
Absolutely.
increasing, and this is great because this is one reason why I've always been telling people that what, at the end of the day, one thing that you can do for yourself is just go for a walk for 20 minutes. You don't have to do the fancy things, but make sure at least that you walk for 20 to 30 minutes.
Movement, right? The
Yeah.
beauty of
Stretching.
movement and mobilizing. Even more than stretching, we believe in mobilizing because our body, when we mobilize it, oxygen and blood circulation happens when you mobilize. So when you've stopped moving a certain part of your body, it realizes your body has a brain of its own. It realizes this area is not moving, doesn't really need too much oxygen, and it doesn't really need too much blood, and it just slows down. And it slows down, and that's where the tightness creates, the muscle gets tighter, the fascia gets tighter, all of that. But the minute you start moving it, you mobilize each and every muscle from your shoulder to your neck, etc., you'll suddenly start feeling so much better because all you've done is you literally put oxygen in there, and now it's feeling so much nicer, which is why we say as humans, before anything, you just need to move. That's the key of actually being healthy.
It's sort of like giving them the reason to be alive.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. We've forgotten how we humans were meant to be.
Yeah. So let's go back to this rat race point, and we were talking about what stresses people out or what sucks people's energy. In your personal life, tell me one thing that sucks your energy, and tell me one thing that, or sucks your energy, and one thing that you do to kind of get your energy back. I mean, you can say Pilates, but I would appreciate something else.
Yeah. Well, what sucks my energy? That's a really good question. I think I've reached a very, very good space in my life now to maintain a lot of mental stability, maintain a little bubble of my own where exterior is not affecting my interior so much. So it's hard to put my finger on that right now. But what I do for that is, yes, I follow meditation. I love teaching. I love what I do. It's absolutely gives me so much happiness. So I believe that I share my energy with all my clients, and because I'm in a good space, I end up giving them a little bit of that as well, which is great. And that's so it's a good space to be in. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is meditation and doing something that you love.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, when we look across the board, which I hope it changes in the coming years, two things that people kind of avoid most of their life is meditation, because again, it's so difficult. How do you stay still?
Yeah.
You cannot do all
And it's
these
actually the
things.
easiest thing to do, right?
You
Like,
have to be, right?
yeah,
But this is something that is very challenging for people.
yeah,
The second thing is, most people the ideal thing to do is to do something that you love. But we're all caught up in doing things which we don't love, which
Yeah.
again decreases our life satisfaction,
Absolutely.
the way of being, the
Yeah.
way of showing up. So if you had to sort of dissect this individually,
Yeah.
so one is meditation. If a person doesn't like doing meditation for whatever reason, what would be that one sort of tip that you can give from your years of experiencing meditation that would help them, and something that how could you encourage, especially a lot of the people that might be hearing this are like Gen Z, the younger people,
yeah,
who might find a disconnect because economics is telling them do this because
Yeah.
you can be a banker and a marketer and an
Absolutely.
advertiser, but then their real love is to maybe teach or pick up a brush and paint something.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really give them the kind of status to be accepted.
right.
And again, this goes full circle back to acceptance and things. So give me your hack.
So I think, CJ, that has changed. I have two kids. My son's 18 and my daughter's 11. And I think that them growing up, we really try to tap into what they're good at and try to base their career out of what they actually enjoy. So the generation of, say, when we were kids, it was very like cliche career options or what actually rakes a lot of money and which are the popular ones. But I think the beauty of mindfulness that many of maybe our parents or us or whatever have incorporated into our lives, today we're very understanding of them being happy, and happiness is connected to doing what you love. So when I talk to my 11-year-old daughter about what she wants to be, it's always about what she's passionate with doing. So I think that's a great space for them. They're lucky with that. So that's the first one, because you're going to be amazing at what you do. And there's no one more than me who can say that, because I never feel like I go to work. I never feel like it's a deadline. I never feel like I'm struggling. Of course, there are some days that I don't have enough energy to go and teach, but because I love it so much, the minute I reach the studio, my mindset has changed. I'm happy to see that person. I'm happy to give her energy that I probably don't even have at that time to give. So if you really love what you do, then it's never hard. Which is exactly the same I said about working out, because don't do anything that you don't enjoy. It's great to move. There are so many millions of options to move. You should do what you love. You should do what you enjoy doing, because your body will actually show results when you're in a happy space. When I push you, your body goes stiff and it holds on. When I relax, it actually lets go. So that's the same with fat. That's the same with stress, right? The more we relax and we're in a happy space, we will let go. We'll see results mentally. We'll see results physically as well. And I saw that like in a major way in myself also. So that's from what we love to do. Coming to meditation, I think, again, the concept of breaking it down, you don't have to sit for like 30 minutes to start. It's so hard because we have so many voices in our head. Firstly, the acceptance of the voices. They're going to be there. We have a brain. It says so much. But it's really amazing, to be honest. When I started getting into meditation, I really wanted to hear my inner voices, because I'm so busy on my daily life. I really don't know what my inner mind is saying.
Yeah.
It's actually sending me signals like I'm tired, or I need a break, or I can't do that thing I promised to do anymore, or whatever. It tells you all of that. I don't like this diet, or I'm so hungry, or I ate too much. All those things your inner voice will tell you. But do we listen to them? No, we shut it away, we close that door, we put it away, and we want to listen to everything else around us that apparently motivates us to achieve more, grow, whatever the world is telling us to do. So initially, my excitement was to listen to my inner voice.
Okay.
And then further from that, I started to realize I could just still it a little bit, and that calm and peace was a great way to either end the day or start the day.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you for sharing that. I have a small tip for anyone who wants to start getting into the space of meditation. One thing which we have in common, or where we align, is you don't have to sit for a longer time.
Yeah.
Start off with like 5 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing is, the whole goal with meditation is to lower down brain activity. Because now when me and Anjali and you guys are listening to us, we're into this phase of hyperactive beta, which is about 14 to 15 hertz of our brainwave cycle. These are calculated by an EEG. The goal with meditation is to lower down your brainwave state to a more alpha state, which is around 9 to 10 hertz. So when you reverse engineer this and you look at it from at least a biohacker's point, we look at, okay, if the goal to get to a state where it's calm and quiet and not so many thoughts running in my head, and I'm sort of in, I can be in touch with this interior self that is giving me some cues. I've got to get to 10 hertz. One trick that I have found is that because your eyes are closed, most of us are always interpreting signals from different parts of the environment. So now you're sitting down, chances are you're not touching anything, so your eyes are closed, so your vision and your touch is gone. Two things that will still be in the environment, I prefer to keep lights off or put an eye mask. This helps, so again, the light part of it is gone. The next two are the most important. One is sound. If you could, and people who are listening to this, they can search for a free version on YouTube. Look for binaural beats.
Okay.
And binaural beats is this sound which is designed by science. And there are many versions to it. The most simplest version is binaural beats. And what happens, Anjali, is that you put a headphone on, always recommended with headphones, and in your left ear, there is a sound frequency of, it could be of nature or something else, something very calming, but let's say of 510 hertz. But on your right ear, the frequency is about 500 hertz.
Wow.
And what happens is your brain, because of the difference of frequency, it cancels out the base frequency, which is 500 hertz, and then it tunes to the frequency that's left, which is 10 hertz.
Wow.
So what you can do is, and you can try it out if you're not driving.
Definitely.
Put some headphones on, close your eyes, switch off the lights so you cut out those environmental inputs, and then play some binaural beats with like 10 hertz. And naturally, if you're a part of a big community prayers, and people are chanting Om or something like this, your body automatically resonates and goes to the meditation frequency. But if you wanted to do it with tech, this is one thing. Second thing is, which we forgot to do before the podcast, is scent or smell. Because in your nose you have these olfactory receptors, and these receptors can take you to a place or an emotion back in time. All you have to do is to use blends of certain essential oils, which will naturally calm down your nervous system.
For sure.
And
for sure.
get you into this place of either relaxation.
Serenity, yeah, agreed.
So this is a trick. Try it.
Lovely. I'm going to try it too. I mean, the pre-meditation, I'm going to burn a nice candle or something and see how different that makes me feel.
So this is one trick. But okay, so moving on. How do you've got beautiful energy that I've met you at the Pilates studio.
Thank you.
You have beautiful energy there. You've got beautiful energy on the show. And you're mother of two, which I didn't know before. One is 18-year-old. How do you sort of manage to be a Pilates instructor and a entrepreneur, which is growing and expanding, bringing so much of your teaching all the time, and you have two kids? So how are you managing all these? Because all of these are like them individually is a big stress in people's life, and that sort of sucks people's energy. But how are you managing to do all of these things? Like, have you learned some really cool tips on parenting, or like, what's going on? What's the secret?
So, I don't find any of them stressful. Let's just start with that. They're all beautiful things to do. I love being a mother. My kids and me are great friends. They're amazing kids. They're super supportive. They're really, we have each other's back. My son and me are friends. He's 18, so obviously he doesn't need anything more than a friend right now. So we
would look like friends for sure.
Yeah, well,
I need to
thank
ask
you.
About your anti-aging.
Thank you. Yeah, but like I don't find anything you said stressful. What I think people need to just step back and own up to how beautiful certain things can be, and it's one step at a time. I've never seen it as hard. I love all of it. I love being a parent. I have a great time with my husband. We do stuff together. We have friends in common. We spend the weekends out. I love my work. There's so much going on. I have a new studio opening in Mumbai, which I'm trying to juggle right now. Yeah, thank you. So that's happening. There's training happening. There's teaching happening. There's a Dubai studio. So yeah, there's plenty and more. But because I enjoy every moment of it, it doesn't feel stressful at all. I made time to come here.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you.
Because you don't take it as stress, but like when you look at the mass amount of people, which we're sort of trying to address at this point, most of them would complain about, my kid's giving me a hard time, and work is busy, and I'm maybe starting multiple studios in different countries, and that's again.
But everything you said are all positives.
Yes.
But we have a tendency to see good things as a negative.
Why do we have that?
I don't know where we've learned. Maybe we're trying to be somebody else. Maybe we're trying to live up to somebody else's expectations. I just set my own. I think that's really important, because if as a mother I insisted to spend 4 hours of the day with my child and I couldn't do it, it would create stress. If I had to give 6 hours of my day to work, which I couldn't, it would create stress. If there are certain ballparks that I'm setting that I can't reach in terms of goal, it creates stress. But if I just do the best I can in terms of eating clean, in terms of meditating, and today if I can't meditate, that's okay too. And today if I can't make it to spend time with my child because I was busy at work, I will make it up to them the next day. And if we just go with that mantra, I think it's all pretty easy and beautiful.
So what I'm noticing is there's a very big element of self-compassion in your life.
Yeah.
And that self-compassion is very powerful. I think that's drawing out a lot of energy and giving it to you so you can, show up as the best version of yourself in the
Absolutely.
current moment.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Now tell me, what are your tips for any young entrepreneurs who are watching this? Because with this studio in Mumbai, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're doing so many things at the same time, and yeah, what's the so I'm trying to find the right word, but what's the best tips for people in
Mantra.
2020?
Secret. Well, I wish there was. I just want to say that there isn't. I've had massive falls. I've had massive tough days. I've almost, I won't use the word depression, but I've gone through some really hard times. And there's only one thing that kept me going, the resilience. Like I had the strength to want to make it forward. Giving up was just not on my cards at that point, and I'm so thankful for it, because thanks to all the support and love that comes from my family, giving up was seemed like an easier option. At that time, when you can actually say it's so much easier to just step back and shut it down and go home and go to bed. It's so easy sometimes to choose that route. But I think that one day at a time, one step at a time, let's break it down. Let's see what's the next step that we can do tomorrow to make it better. And I actually had a mentor back in the day, and I'm a part of EO, which is the entrepreneur organization. Back in the day, I used to be an EO accelerator where I was learning to grow. And I had a mentor back in the day who used to say, your problems are too many. Let's break it down. And one step at a time, we actually used to break it down and say which one needs to be solved first. And we worked one step at a time, and things have really looked up since then.
Okay, so the way or the approach is to be persistent.
Yeah.
To have the confidence in yourself, have the self-compassion, and have the drive.
Yeah.
I would synthesize this for all the listeners. And as well, something really important you said right at the end is not getting your destination straight away, but taking smaller steps, like you said in the beginning as well, like making those smaller goals or targets or winning those smaller wins. And that's extremely important because, you've got to take this approach where you take things from moment to moment to moment, because our brain is, extremely powerful, but it also is, it becomes a bit of a liability in time.
Absolutely.
Looking too much ahead.
When it's too far away and too hard to reach, then you'd rather just shut down. Yeah. The same goes with weight. The same goes with your business, right? We're all eventually in the same path of trying to succeed. So when we break it down, each step, and when you award yourself for every tiny success that you have, whether it's through fitness or your entrepreneur side, all it needs is resilience. All it needs is to have a strong mind, to work away from the weaknesses, whether the weakness is a piece of cake or it's a failure at business. We just have to keep going. Consistency is key.
Okay, so consistency and do these micro wins every time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the podcast, and my final question to you is, if you had a time machine, and if, let's say hypothetically, you had a time machine and you could go back in time to your younger self, you can choose your age, and you would like to give yourself a piece of advice. Now, buying Bitcoin early is a great advice. We're thinking of something else.
Okay, thanks for setting that straight.
Because I've had people who are like, okay, buy Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, but okay. So apart from buying a Bitcoin,
apart from that,
what would be, knowing all that you know right now, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Own up to who you are. Mm-hmm. We're all different. Mm-hmm. We're all built out of a different fabric, and we really need to be the best version of ourselves. I say that to my daughter all the time. I teach her to be clean, I teach her to be healthy, I teach her to be strong, I teach her to be resilient, powerful, and all those things, but I teach her to be comfortable in her skin. I was not taught that when I was a child. No disrespect, but we probably didn't know better back in the day. So I think if you're very, very comfortable in your skin, then all the other things follow.
Okay, that's a great piece of advice. So, guys, listen, you've gotta be yourself and take ownership and
Absolutely.
responsibility of what you have and enjoy life. That's it. It's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that complicated. Just find joy and happiness in whatever you do because that's
True.
the natural state of being.
That's true.
And if you're not facing that, then there's something wrong. So, Anjali, thank you so much.
Thank you. So much to learn from you too. Thank you for all that you shared, and I'm going to go back and practice it as well. Thank you.
And thank you for all the great things you've been doing, all
Thank you.
the healing, knowledge, wisdom, fitness, better pictures you've brought to the world.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Pleasure's
And
mine.
this is me, CJ, signing out from the Shift with CJ podcast. Today I'm with Anjali, and after this podcast is released, I really encourage you guys to go to the Pilates Academy. Don't be like
Thank
me,
you.
understand this reformer and Cadillac. See ya.
Bye.